Okay. Good evening.
Good evening.
How's everybody doing tonight?
Oh, fantastic.
Welcome to the City of Wildomar Candidate Forum. We had, before the thing, we had the candidates draw for their seating order up here. So when we start, each candidate is going to have 2 minutes for their opening statement. My name is Gene Wetterlich. I'll be the moderator, and we'll ask them the questions. The first question will go to the candidate in the first chair, and then we'll rotate on down. Second question will go to the second candidate, and so forth and so on. And then when we get to their closing statement, we'll reverse the order and start with candidate number 3. After their 2-minute opening statement, they will have 1.5 minutes to answer each question, and then the closing statement will be 1 minute. Heather Estrada will be acting as our timekeeper this evening. She's seated right up front. She has signs that say 30 seconds, 10 seconds for when you've got 10 seconds left, and stop for when it's time to shut up and go home. So, we ask that you please be courteous to everyone's time. Don't go over your allotted time. We appreciate your participation this evening. We should also mention that Ben Benoit is also running this evening, but Ben is stuck in traffic up in Riverside and will not be able to join us this evening, so we will miss Ben. So, we will start with seat number 1 is Timothy Walker, seat number 2 is Joseph Morabito, and seat number 3 is Marcia Swanson. And we will start opening statements with Tim Walker.
Put the sign up. Stop. I didn't really write an opening statement. I've been doing this for 8 years and enjoyed it. I've been working for the city, meeting with a lot of developers lately, trying to get some tax revenue into our city. And between our real life of outside and my job and my company and my wife and my children and grandchildren, it's always busy. So running around for the city it's a lot of work. Regional boards, you have to go to all those things. I've been doing all that stuff too, and going to the county quite a bit. But there's a lot of responsibility with being a councilman, and a lot of background. And my background is completely in business, so I understand business. I also was a school teacher for many years, but it was my private school, so it was a lot more controlled. I've always been in control. This has been a whole different venue of having other people help make decisions, where I'm at the top of the pile at my business. There's 5 of us at the top of this pile. So a lot of times you have to work together and compromise and work together. Luckily, we're all pretty conservative people, so it's been pretty easy to do. And it's been a nice 8 years so far, and looking forward to another 4. With that, I don't need any more time.
All right.
Okay.
Mr. Morabito.
All right. Well, I did prepare my statement, so. Good evening. My name is Joseph Morabito. My wife Grace and I have lived in Wildomar since purchasing our home in Winsong Valley in 2001. I've been active in the community for the last 5 years, and I'm running because I want to give more complete representation to the residents of Wildomar. In my door-to-door campaigning, I've come across many people that want clearer communication from the city to the residents. Whether it's things coming like the name change from Baxter Central to Wildomar Trail, or the new bus stop that we have now in the corner of Central and Palomar, or newsworthy things that have happened, like various police actions, including a recent closure of an illegal marijuana dispensary. The people want to know what's happening or what has happened. Reports don't have to be overly detailed if there's an ongoing investigation, but at least the basic information should be shared with the entire city, instead of allowing the social media rumor mill to spread the word, often full of errors. Now, my platform includes a monthly e-newsletter, and I've pledged to have quarterly town hall meetings. Another key plank in my platform is increased code enforcement to tackle things that make Wildomar look bad. Homeless encampments and graffiti come to mind. Also, the trucks parked near Palomar, near Clinton Keith. I know we're on a shoestring budget, but we need to make room to address issues that cause Wildomar to come off as second rate. We need to find the successful measures that other cities are employing and bring them to Wildomar. It can be done. Thank you.
Ms. Watson.
Good evening. I don't see many faces out there that I don't know, but for the ones that I don't know, my name is Marcia Swanson. I currently serve on council. I am running unopposed, but came tonight because I thought there might be some questions or some things about me that you might want to know. Been a resident of the city of Wildomar for 44 years. My heart, my family, my husband all reside in this area. One daughter in Arizona, but her job made her go. Otherwise, her heart would be here too. I've served on the MAC before we became a city. I enjoy working with all of you. I am here to represent you, not to make decisions to do what I want to do on my own. On council, it takes 3 of us to agree to do anything, to send an e-newsletter, to do anything that's gonna cost any money or what. It takes 3 of us. Joseph has some high ideals, very high. They're gonna be difficult to do. I'm sorry, because I like them. But it's not that simple. It's not like I get to decide more code enforcement or more e-newsletters. It's a joint decision from all of us, but coming up from you and what we can afford to do. We have to look at the budget. When this city was formed, I wasn't sure, even at the time, that it was going to be viable. I wasn't one that was on the WIN committee that was pushing for incorporation because it was iffy. But I decided if we did incorporate it, I wanted to be here to keep the city on a level playing field and a level track. Not spending money to go to this convention or that convention or learn something that's not going to help me here. I want to hear from you people. And so that's why I am rerunning again to keep us level on an even keel and hear all sides of it. Thank you.
Thank you. We have, and in fact, we appreciate you showing up and running unopposed. We know that's difficult, and there's a couple of questions later on that pertain to your new districting setup, which I know everybody's excited about. But the fact is, hopefully you do all represent the city, even though you represent a district. So we'll start with the questions now. We'll start, this first one will go to Mr. Walker. As one of the newest cities in California, Wildomar has faced several growing pains, including the loss of VLF funds, lawsuits, and other challenges. In your opinion, what are the greatest challenges facing the city today, and what can you do to address these issues?
One of the biggest problems with the state taking our funds was the sheriffs. So that was the most painful part of the whole thing. The year that it happened, I just happened to be, right after that I became the mayor, and I had to deal with the loss of all of our sheriffs. I had to deal with the crime coming up a little bit in our town, and people asking why they only saw one guy and different things like that. It was a very stressful time for me. I met with the state. I met with Governor Brown's chief of staff in a room filled with about 15 people, and I was right in his face. And I asked him, I said, what makes you think that you have the right to take our funds and have me take care of 38,000 people with one police officer? What is your right? Well, he couldn't answer that question. But I still stuck it to him, and I got up there and we fought this whole time. We finally got our money back after 7 years of fighting this battle. We did that decision all together and made that decision to spend the money, and we finally prevailed. One of the things that you can do in a town is commercial real estate, commercial investments, everything commercial. And that's where your tax base will come from, and that's what I'm aiming for. That's who I meet with constantly now. I'm meeting with a lot of different developers that want to come here. That's basically all I have so far.
Can you re-summarize the question for me?
Certainly. As one of the newest cities, Wildomar has faced a number of growing pains, including the loss of your VLF funds, lawsuits, and other challenges. In your opinion, what are the greatest challenges facing the city today, and what can you do to address these issues?
Well, the greatest issue is getting our police forces up to the levels that are ideal, which is 1 officer per 1,000 residents. That's going to be a tall order because it costs a lot of money. And when we voted to become a city, I was one that did not vote in favor of that because I didn't see the tax base. We didn't have car dealers. We didn't have entertainment centers. We didn't have things that were going to bring in the money. But we're here now. So we have to attract businesses that are high dollar. I'm not sure how that happens. I mean, these guys have been here already the last 10 years, and certainly once we're out of the recession, the last 5. And the people that are in the city or part of the chamber haven't been able to do it. So I don't know that I have fresh ideas beyond that. I'm willing to somebody who works to bring business here, if it's go to trade shows and whatnot that I've heard exist, that I've heard happen in the past, then I would be part of that, but I don't have any magic spell here for this.
Ms. Swanson?
Two biggest concerns are money and economic development. We need the money to hire someone to do economic development. We can go to all of these trade meetings and they're very expensive to go to. It's very expensive for us as individuals to be a part of, and the city pays that, and you shouldn't be, because we're not economic developers. We need somebody on staff that can go to these kinds of conferences, meet with these people, and bring me a Cracker Barrel, but that's beside the point. But most important to me, you talk about safety and police. I just read an article on the Patch within the last couple days. We are in the top 50 safest cities in Southern California. We ranked 41, but we were in the ranking. Yeah, Marietta, Temecula were a little bit ahead of us, but Canyon Lake and Lake Elsinore didn't even score. So I think with what we've got, we're doing fine. I would love to see some more safety issues, code enforcement, but they'll come as we get economic development and have the money to hire them to do more. So number one to me is money and economic development.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Mr. Morbido. The City Council has placed Measure AA on the ballot that proposes to raise sales tax by 1% in the city, a measure estimated to bring in an additional couple $1 million a year. In your opinion, is this measure needed, and do you support it?
Is it needed and is it supported? I guess it depends on what the residents want. Do they want us to have increased police presence? Do they want us to be able to tackle those issues? Then that takes money. And right now our budget is pretty meager. Now I did have some prepared thoughts on that. Anyways, so I've blogged about this topic many times and I have mixed opinions on this. But to answer directly, I support and urge a yes vote on Measure AA. We are a city with meager budget, but with real world issues that cost money to address. Whether Measure AA passes or not, we'll survive, but understand that if we want more police services, we will have to pay for them. Now I've seen where people have suggested that there's room in the budget if we were to lower the salaries of the city staff and use that savings for more cops. But I doubt that that would
How many staff?
No, that's the point. But that, we could probably take the entire city budget, of staff salary, and that would not bring us up to Marietta standards on police. So this is definitely something that the people are going to vote for, and they need to vote with their conscience. So.
Okay, first of all, I hate an increase in tax of any kind. But Measure AA is important to the city. It will show some benefits to each and every one of you in the way of police and safety. There will be an oversight committee to see where it is spent. I am entirely in favor and will vote yes on AA because we need it. And it will bring a lot of things. The staff's wages and salaries don't even come into consideration with this tax. I mean, this tax won't go anywhere near their salaries. It will only go to a few items, and that's keeping our roads safe, increasing the police department, doing a little work over at the fire station. We own that fire station now, and it's very old, and those firemen live half of their life there. You know, it should have decent kitchen and running water and that kind of stuff. So this AA will bring 1.7. It's not all just your money. It's anybody who stops in this city to get gas, to buy anything. We go to Marietta and Temecula to shop. We can't buy much of anything here right now. And Marietta has it on the ballot. We're going to pay it there, and I think it's already in Temecula. It's higher than here already. So we're already paying it. We're just not getting any benefit. That's it.
Well, I'm on the record that I was opposed to it. I was opposed for putting it even on the ballot, but we needed a consensus to put it on the ballot, so I went ahead and did that because I think it's still going to be the voters' decision to do it. I'm a no-tax guy. I'm a no-tax, 1 cent tax. LA County and LA City did that years ago, and you could hear the screaming across the state of California, all the other cities laughing at them for doing such a thing. And now we're turning around and doing the same thing that they did. I'm just opposed to it. I think there's other ways to raise the funds, and one of the things would be to get the people to stop suing us and stopping all of our commercial, and all of our commercial ventures here. That's the problem. It's not a matter of funds. It's a matter of them stopping us from getting any of the funds. And I think AA, I'm not for it. I don't support it, but I said that I would put it on the ballot because the people will have to decide. We did a survey and they said it was like 67, 68% said that they would vote for it. So I said, okay, well, I'm not going to be one of 5 people that decide if we're going to tax somebody. That's not how we roll here, and that might be how the state does things. But at a local level, we don't do that. But yeah, I'm still opposed to it because I am a conservative in money mainly, and I am a businessman. After 37 years, I understand how to make money. So yeah, unfortunately, I won't vote for it, but I let it on the ballot for everybody else to decide on their own.
Thank you. While we're talking about taxes, we'll have the next question. We'll start with Ms. Swanson. Proposition 6 is on the ballot next month. Prop 6, of course, is about repealing the gas tax the state laid on us this year. As citizens, we were not granted the opportunity promised to us by Governor Brown, the opportunity to vote on any tax increase for the state. The downside, obviously, is the added cost to residents, to all commercial enterprises, businesses. It's resulted in increased costs to anything transported, not just gas prices and registration. It's a burden, obviously, to the 60+% of our people that climb on the freeway every morning. On the flip side, more than 30% of Wildomar streets are rated poor, very poor, or failed by an independent pavement management engineer, with many additional streets still unpaved. The city desperately needs funding, as you've all mentioned, to address these infrastructure issues, money that may only be available if the gas tax stays in place. So, putting on your best city council / resident hat, what do you recommend on Prop 6?
Oh, that's difficult. I was not in favor of it. I don't like paying higher gas taxes. I do like the benefit. Dan York back there has found ways of spending that money to improve our streets. I look on the freeways, they've been out there working all the time now and making improvements that they weren't doing before. And I think they're doing that so we don't repeal it. I am still of a very mixed heart whether to vote to repeal it or not. So that I'm on the line there. I don't want higher taxes, I don't like it, but when I see the benefits that it has given our city and our residents right here, you guys take the freeway almost every day to get to work, all of you. Nobody hardly works right here in the city. Even if you're in Temecula and you're working and you live here, you've got to get on that freeway and it's a mess. But as you know, they're working on it all the time, so I'm still undecided.
I'm anxious to see how long the signs stay up if they get, if this thing passes. I'm against it, always will be, because they didn't let us vote for it. Should have been a 66% vote for California to do any tax. That's what the law said. They went ahead and did this without us. I own a transportation company after 25 years, and the cost to my customers is huge. And my drivers that work for me is huge. 20 cents a gallon in diesel, and I have diesel vehicles. And my drivers are screaming every day about raising the prices. And all it does is turn around and raise everybody else's prices. It doesn't do any, there's no benefit. And there's no guarantee, even though we voted that proposition back in June, that they won't touch that money. They're liars because they lied last time. They've always lied. They took the money out of the transportation funds and they're gonna do it again. I don't care what anybody says, it's gonna happen again. They're gonna get the money and then they're gonna take money out of that transportation fund and put it in the general fund just like they always do. Nothing has changed in California. These people are whacked. Those people up there are crazy and they're gonna steal our money. So I'm a yes on 6 guy because I'm sick of paying taxes for gas when I'm not getting the benefit and they don't give us hardly anything anyway.
All right, well, I'm conflicted on Prop 6. I can find pros with each side. Now, I'm taking the long view, and though Wildomar could benefit from the continued SB1 road repair funds, I'm for Prop 6. In favor of overturning the gas tax, which also includes the hikes in vehicle licensing fees, and then requires any new gas tax increases to come before the voters. Now, I didn't like the dishonest way that SB1 was passed, and I really can't stand the duplicitous way that the state has characterized Prop 6. It should have been called Gas Tax Repeal Initiative, but instead the state is calling it something like Attack on Bridge and Road Safety. Now that was the last straw for me. I'm now for SB 6. In the short term, Wildomar may suffer, but this issue is bigger than Wildomar.
Thank you. We'll start this next question again back to Mr. Walker. Public safety, including police and fire protection, is always one of the prime directives for a city. Yet according to a recent study, over 70% of Wildomar's responses to 911 calls don't meet emergency medical time standards. What percentage of Wildomar's budget is currently devoted to public safety? And what are the pros and cons of contracting these services to a third party, as you currently do?
I think right now it's over 60% goes just strictly to fire and public safety. The rest of it is earmarked for lights and different things, street maintenance of different housing tracts and things like that. There's no easy answer with this one because we've been fighting for so long to get the money back. You're not going to be able to do anything until we have more income in the city. By taxing the people, it's not going to change. It was funny because the last time that the gas actually went down and got under $3, and I thought I was all excited about it. For my business, it was very helpful. But one of the things the city was hurt on was the gas tax. The gas tax went down, of course. Measure A money, which we use for our roads, which we don't have much money. We're getting some more. We're getting some more gas stations in town, so that's going to help. But that Measure A money, and everybody was panicking. But I asked the question: did our money go up in any other places? Oh, of course. People started buying more stuff at the store, and all of a sudden our tax revenue over here, instead of trying to pigeonhole, we can use the money because it came up over here. We'll just put that back in ourselves. That's what business is all about. And if you run things more like a business instead of just being pigeonholed, it makes it a lot simpler. So we're going to do our best with the amount of money we have for our sheriffs, because that's number one, and we are trying to increase that.
Can you tell me that again? Question?
Sure. Public safety, including police and fire protection, is always a prime directive for the city. Yet a recent study shows that over 70% of Wildomar's responses to 911 calls don't meet emergency medical time standards. What percentage of Wildomar's budget is currently devoted to public safety? And what are the pros and cons of contracting these services to a third party, as you currently do?
As far as the percentages, I'm not part of the council. I've never studied that, so I wouldn't have that answer. As far as pros and cons for whether to contract out, the pros would be, from what I've heard, is that we contract with the sheriff's department, and now we have helicopters and SWAT team, or whatever they have, that we'll have. The same as with the fire department. We contract out versus having our own, then it comes with everything that they have. The cons, obviously, are that they have a really nice union that ensures that they have really great retirement and other benefits, which that's fine, except for the taxpayers have to pay that. And it's really outstripped what the average person makes. So that's my answer on that.
Well, like I say, public safety is number one, and of our budget is only $13.5 million. That's the whole budget for the year for the city. Of that, 41%, 5.5, go to police only. And like Jean said, they're not always emergency calls. But they've got to be there, they've got to be on duty. If we were to try to privatize and have our own police department like Marietta does, and our own fire department, there is no way we would be able to ever pay their pensions, let alone their salaries. This way they all cooperate. If one of our guys needs help, Lake Elsinore's there, Temecula's there, county sheriff is there, all of their equipment that they own is there, and Marietta comes to back us up too. So it really is the best of all worlds to contract at this point. We're not big enough to own a police department or even a building to put one in to start with. I think we have 2, maybe 3 cars altogether. But when we need help, it is there. I've seen Coldwell Banker. I thought there was a fire in the attic. There was smoke. Fire department came from as far away as Temecula because they have the big, tall ladder to get up there. So they were all there, and they all do respond and back each other up. So if it's a real emergency, you're taken care of.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Mr. Morbido. Wildomar parks are in sad shape with the loss of ADA access to the tot lot at Marno O'Brien, poorly maintained drainage system at Marno O'Brien and Regency Parks, grass that's mostly weeds and uneven, making it a hazard to run. Ball diamonds that need some serious work to get them level and playable. Add to this the newest trail system, which is already in need of maintenance. Is it not time this city have a special Parks and Trails Committee made up of a diverse cross-section of citizens with the authority to recommend direction and action items to city staff on maintaining both the parks and trails?
Well, actually, if you were to go to Joseph Morabito for Wildomar.com, you'll see that one of the things I want to push for is Parks Commission or some kind of citizen-backed thing that will let them be part of that, whether it be like the Measure Z, they don't have to be paid. We have plenty of people in town that would like to volunteer, and that would be basically a yes answer to that long question.
Personally, I don't believe they're in that kind of condition. I'm at Marno O'Brien all the time. Bridget is there all the time. We hold community events there all the time. I don't know of anybody, and I'm a clumsy person, that has tripped on that grass. Our trails are beautiful. They run completely along Grand Avenue. There's no tumbleweeds there anymore. It's smooth, it's easy to ride a bike or to walk. We've got bike trails now that are marked with green, so you know what they are. You don't have somebody over here on your right-hand side and you're trying to turn right. The bike trail goes out and around you. So I totally disagree with those statements completely. I think we need more parks, and yes, I would love to see a parks commission, but more than that, I would love to see a on-staff park director. Someone who, that's all they do, is plan the programs, in charge of the parks, oversee that they are being taken care of. Water's expensive. To keep them green and to keep them in that kind of condition takes a lot of money, but I think as a small city, we do a fabulous job. The last movie in the park, there were 400 or so people that showed up and had a great time.
We do have a subcommittee or a committee that oversees Measure Z funds, and they have say in what they oversee, they see what's being spent, and they can make suggestions there. So we do have that. The problem that we have in our city is a lot of people are pretty lackadaisical about things, and they don't want to join. They don't want to be on one of these committees. It takes time, even if it's not that often, it still takes time out of their day. So, and I mean, you can see that just in the number of people that ran for these seats this time. I mean, look at it. There's 2 of us in my district and nobody in the other 2 districts. That tells you a lot about the people. They're pretty content with things that are, how things are going, especially with the parks. I'm in the parks all the time, and we do all these functions in there, and the parks are looking really good. And we have a guy, Daniel, who runs our cemetery district, or he does all of the cemetery for us, and then he runs to the parks and handles all that stuff too. So with the budget that we have and the Z money that we get, we actually take care of the parks. So some of the things that the ADA taught thing, well, if people would stop jumping the fence and stealing all the parts off of all these swings and everything, that would probably help too. So that's kind of a misnomer. And all you have to do is go down to the park and see how it is. It is actually pretty good for the size of the city we are. And we did buy some more parkland, so things are coming.
If I could just add, I was just answering the question that yes, we want a Parks Commission. The rest about what the park looks like, I pretty much ignored.
Okay. And I didn't, that was submitted by a resident, by the way. I didn't sit here to
We understand that.
dog on your parks and stuff.
You're in trouble, Gene.
Really?
You're not invited to our barbecue at the park.
Right. I love your new trail system down there on Grand Avenue. I drive on the streets.
Pretty
terrible
cool,
shape.
isn't it?
I drive on the trail because the street's not in great shape.
It's
So
awesome. That's how we roll. We care more about horses, sorry.
Okay. Next question, we'll start with Ms. Swanson. Homelessness is on the rise in our region. California was the leading state for homeless, admitting to nearly 135,000 homeless folks in 2017. What do you believe is the cause of this increase, and what can or should the city do to address this growing issue?
I think the city right now is doing everything they can do. We were at the League of Cities meeting, and I was quite surprised to have someone in that room stand up, because if you were in that room, you were an elected official or a city employee. And she stood up and she said, you know, I've been homeless I was homeless at one time for 5 years. 5 years I was homeless. And she said, if you think those homeless people are not armed, they are. Every one of them are armed one way or another. Not all of them want to be there. You can help some of them, but you can't help them all. We have a fantastic group here called SWAG, and the city has just recently agreed to pay them. They were working under a grant. They worked for the county. They got a paycheck to help the homeless. But they felt that that wasn't enough. They weren't doing enough, so they've gone out on their own. They have a fundraiser on October 13th. Ask Bridget. But I think that the city of Wildomar right now is doing everything they can to either get them into a home. There are beds. There are beds available for these people. There are programs available for these people, but not everyone wants help, and you can't force it on them.
I see the homeless situation is not going to get any better. It's actually getting worse. One of the problems that we have in our area with the homeless is a lot of them are coming from out of town. A lot of them are coming from Colorado. They've moved back. Since we passed the marijuana deal in California, a lot of people came from Colorado back to this wonderful area because, number one, they got out of the snow, and they can come down here where it's all nice and warm, and they can live here on the streets and pretty much function. And that's across the state of California. That's who I was talking. I was talking to a lot of different guys from different cities, mayors and everybody from the League of Cities. And they were all saying the same thing. They saw the influx. There's a big influx here. The weather's amazing, and people are very generous here. People feel bad for the guy that's standing out there. I don't feel bad for the guy that's standing out there because we have a lot of services that they can get. We are supporting the SWAG group, and they're doing an awesome job. But a lot of people just don't care. They don't want to get off the street. But then you have the mentally ill, and that's not going to be an easy solve. That's something that's going to be federally solved. That's the only way we're going to change that type of a thing. The homeless, we do what we can. We put up the ordinance. We voted things through to try to get them to stop what they're doing, and I keep begging people, stop giving them money. If you want to give them something, give them something to eat. Stop giving them cash, because you're just feeding their habit.
Or give money to the organizations that take care of them.
Now, the cause of homelessness, all right, that's a huge issue. That's it's way outside of the area of Wildomar. It's a state issue between AB 109, Props 4757. We've heard those a lot of times. Those have contributed. Also, the cost of living in California is crazy. So even for people, the classic one paycheck away from being without a home, it's more real than it would have been 10 years ago. The costs, I can't imagine how young people today are supposed to afford their first apartment. On a local level, what can the city do? The city's basically doing what it can do. I'm glad that they started stepping up. It really wasn't a problem before this year, and we started hearing about it in the springtime. And city government seems, have a slower pace than regular day-to-day life, but they got into gear and started addressing the issue. I would like to see these, I know they're private land, but these areas where that they live, where the encampments are, because that's the real issues, the encampments and then the aggressive panhandling. And so I'd really like to see us with concerted effort with our police to crack down on that.
Thank you. Talking about the difficulty of housing. Housing is an issue for our state and certainly for our region, specifically housing for our workforce, for our children and so forth. With a median home price in Wildomar currently over $400,000, what can be done to provide more affordable housing geared toward first-time buyers, teachers, veterans, and our own children? And I'll start that with Mr. Walker.
Well, one of the things that you're going to have to live with in California is we don't have enough housing. That's just period, simple, that's it. There is no other easy explanation why the prices are so high. League of Cities, this last conference, they said 6 million people moved out of California last year. 5 million came to California. So we lost 1 million people. And a lot of those people were people that are older, that have pensions, and are taking all their really good pensions and leaving the state of California. They can't afford to live here. Kids can't afford to live here. So people go, Tim, what are you gonna do about Wildomar? You know, we wanna keep it rural. Well, we're keeping it as rural as we can. We only have certain areas that we're allowing to develop into housing tracts, but we have to have housing. There's no way that we cannot do that. It's not fair to the kids below us that aren't able to get a house. But you have to make it attractive enough for the guys that are gonna build the houses to come here. Because let me tell you, if it doesn't pencil at the end of the day, they're not coming. But we have to be open to having housing come in certain areas, and we have a lot of areas that we're not going to allow. We're gonna keep them 2 acres, 1 acre, whatever, and that's how we keep our rural atmosphere. But we have to have housing, there's no other way. But the only way you can get houses is the commercial will come when the houses are here.
Can you tell me that one again?
No, I can't. Housing is an issue for our state and our region, specifically housing for our workforce. With the median home price in Wildomar over $400,000, what can be done to provide more affordable housing geared toward first-time buyers, teachers, veterans, and our children?
Now that's almost an unanswerable question, because I don't see how, we're not gonna be able to mandate that houses be built and that are, all of a sudden, you know, 175,000 or something, whatever be affordable, 250. I know that there was a townhouse proposed down at where Murrieta is, and the people that were in Murrieta were concerned that they might be too low of prices. So and that's what we're faced with. I don't see how that can actually be dealt with. I mean, not in the short term. If you go back to when we had the housing bubble the first time, because the houses got to ridiculous prices, sort of where they are now. And then so when it popped, of course everybody was upset. I'm thinking, okay, that's great, but for yourself, but think about your kids. Maybe they can afford a house. But in the meantime, we march right back up to there where the prices are not affordable for many people.
Well, I wear a different hat, I guess, on this. As Jean and most of you know, I am a realtor. Some housing is still affordable. Wildomar is still one of the few affordable places that you can live. We have a lot of apartments on the books to be built, but the builders aren't going to build them until the demand is there. This new generation that's coming in, they're not necessarily wanting to be homeowners. They'd be perfectly happy to live with their parents, even if they were married and have kids. Yeah, it would suit them fine. And a lot of families that's great for. They built the new gen houses, and the next gen houses where the kids supposedly owned the house and bought it, and the parents lived in the little apartment next door or attached to. The market is the market, and it will be what it is. It's California. People want to live in California. The weather's beautiful. There's no way for a city to control housing in my mind. I am totally private property rights. You own the property, you get to build what you want, and you get to do what you want with your own property. I would like to see some of the costs involved in getting a permit to even build a house come down, but I don't know how we do that and ensure that they're safe built, that they're safe for everybody to live in. So I see that as a totally non-city issue.
Thank you.
Can we answer any of those things? Can we answer any of those things, or do we just go on?
Yeah, he likes it.
No, I just want to answer one thing. The only way that the city can be a part of that is by lowering DIP fees. We were down at $4,000, now we're up over $11,000 or almost $12,000 per house. I fought the whole time trying to keep it around $7,000, but the city kept wanting more and more, and everybody went ahead and voted for it. So it made it hard to keep the price down. So right now it's about $50,000 to even start a house, not even building, not even one piece of wood. It's 50 grand, and that's unsustainable. So that's the only way we can do it as a city, but we don't have control of water, we don't have control of sewer, we don't have control of gas and everybody else that jumps on the bandwagon, and they all want to pay for their pension plans for all their higher ups and all their people that work for them. So we've done what we can. We try to keep it as low as we can to stimulate the market. That's about it.
I'd like to jump on that too.
I was going to say, so
Okay.
free-for-all mode here. Everybody take it.
I remember when that was brought up, and I don't think that Wildomar should be like a bargain around here. We should have the same prices as everybody else. And even if somebody gifted the $11,000 to them, the difference between $425 and $414 is not going to have somebody move into a house. Maybe somebody on that bubble, But a lot of people on the other side of the bubble, that wouldn't make a difference one way or another.
And I do totally agree with that. We are right in line with all the other cities. That 50,000 does not go to the city. It is spread out through so many agencies, including school fees, water fees, sewer fees, whether it's a septic tank or you're hooking to sewer, things that the city does not have control over. We do not get that amount of money. It's a very, very small fraction of that 50,000 goes to the city to keep us running. And that money goes, those DIF fees go to build a community center in time. We can't do it now, but we have some high goals on this council, some things we want for our people to have. And the only way we can have them is to have little bits of pockets of money. A little bit put here for this project, a little bit put here for this project, until someday, I may not see it, but someday we will have these things. We'll have a community center and maybe a swimming pool where our kids can go and be safe and have a good time. But that's where those monies go. They don't go to the city. Every dime that is charged out by engineering or whoever is accounted for. They've worked on it for those hours, so they should be paid for those hours. But those aren't fees that just go to the city. I don't want anyone to ever think that.
Okay, I lost control there for a minute.
Yep, you did.
We'll try to rein it back in here, so. And what they're saying is absolutely true. I think Riverside is one of the least expensive areas, certainly in Southern California, to build a home. But the average in Riverside County right now, between DIF fees, TUMP fees, and the variety of other things, is currently approaching $75,000. That's before land acquisition, before you put a stick in the ground. And it's very, very difficult to build affordable workforce housing when you start with a $75 tab and then you have to buy the lot and so forth. So it is very, very, very difficult, and cities all over are grappling with that. And I know it makes it more difficult because you folks just raised your DIF fees here within the last couple of years. WRCOG raised their TUMP fees. You know, everything continues to escalate. Meanwhile, affordable housing falls by the wayside. Here's another question from a resident. We'll start this with Mr. Morabito. At just over 5,300 square feet, Wildomar's library falls far short of county and national standards, which call for a ½ square foot per person. Based on current population estimates, our library should be close to 18,500 square feet. Wildomar's library is also trying to function as a community center, senior center, etc., but the facility is woefully inadequate. As a member of the City Council, would you work to institute development impact fees, or those DIF fees, to fund capital improvements for our library? Would you be open to working with developers to create a mixed-use facility, such as senior housing above a library and cafe? Or is the library a significant enough issue to place it as a priority?
For the library itself, as far as just the traditional use with books and whatnot, just for that. Obviously those are nice, but we recently, through Rotary, had distributed dictionaries, and the kids were looking at them because they're books versus a dictionary on the phone. So whereas what the other ideas of the senior center or a community center and those kinds of things where the building would have multiple uses, that's interesting, and it would be worth at least investigating to see how that could happen. But, you know, that's a lot of conversations later.
The library in question belongs to the county of Riverside, not the city of Wildomar. The city of Wildomar does not own a library. We'd like to have one that's owned by the city, and that could be what some of those funds would go towards in the future. I was on the map when that library was built. I got to be in on it from day one. I love the library there. They've added on. But the several times I've been in there and the programs that are going on there, which are great programs, I don't see them sold out or not big enough to function there. You go in and you get a book and you can take it home, or you can take a class there. The kids are always got a craft or something going on. And like I said, I would like to see maybe a library on this side of the freeway, but that library, Wildomar doesn't have any say in it. It's Riverside County, so you're talking to the wrong people.
No, it's nice, and that's the truth of the fact is that we don't own the library, and we can't take our funds and do anything to that library. That's crossing public monies, and in our instance, we can't even do that. We have a center right here, this building right here. The one reason we took this big room and that room over there behind it is that we could have functions here, people could actually rent here for $5 or whatever. It's pretty reasonable to rent this room out for functions, for city functions, for people coming for senior classes or whatever. We do have a senior center that has an actual room that they can use. Nobody ever calls them, nobody ever goes there. We've asked them, they said, hey, you guys can use it if you want it. People need to come in, nobody ever goes. So it's not a matter of the things aren't there, it's a matter of people just don't go and do it. The library, it's a nice small library, it's perfect for our city, the size of our city, and they do have a lot of kids that go there. I've seen it in there, I've been in there, and but I don't see it filling up and I don't see it packed out the doors either, so I mean, we can't control that. We can't control what the library does anyway.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Ms. Swanson. Now that you've got elections by district, do you think it will change the way you govern? For example, for a priority in your district over another?
Absolutely not. Every single person on council was totally opposed to districts. When we became a city, it was on the ballot to be in districts, and people didn't quite understand what that meant, but it was a yes vote because they wanted a city. So we put it back on the ballot and asked the people, do you really want districts? And resoundingly, no, we don't. California changed the law. They rewrote the, escaped my mind the name of it, but they rewrote it, and an attorney found out that what was written, if you didn't have someone with Hispanic blood on your council, you could be sued. So they went around and threatened everybody that didn't have anybody with a last name. Bridget Moore's grandparents were born in Mexico. But if we decided to fight this lawsuit, as Tim said, these lawsuits are killing us. If we decided to fight it, and even if we won, it was millions of dollars in cost to the city and you, the people. So we decided to form districts. I'm in District 5, but I serve each and every one of you.
And as she said, and I'll reiterate that, we were completely opposed to districts. It's nonsense to be a districts in the size of this city. As a city council, we've already made our decisions on what we're going to do in our city, what streets are priority to get fixed, what ones that were, like Bundy Canyon is not in my district, so I don't want to spend a dime on Bundy Canyon. Well, that would be a stupid idea because I used to live on Bundy Canyon. So the districts was just a dumb idea. We didn't have a choice. We went ahead and didn't want to fight the lawsuit. It was going to cost us too much money, and we still would have had to pay the guy that fought us. Even if we win, we still have to pay him. It's around $200,000 plus our share would be another $200,000 or $300,000. So $500,000 we weren't going to spend. We just dealt with being districts. I don't look at districts. I don't look at Winsong. I don't look at the people right off of Clinton Keith. I don't look at the people over next to the high school. This is all Wildomar. I'm Wildomar. I've been here since '79. I bought here. '79. I am Wildomar, and I don't look at it any other way. In districts, it just happens to be the way it fell for us to get voted back in. I don't do anything better for my group than I do for anybody else because it's not about that. We prioritize on the amount of money we have to fix the issues that the city are facing. Thank you. That's it.
The issue with districts is that's what we have now. Now, it should be that we represent all of Wildomar. This is a small city. It's only 36,000 people. But there are going to be times where a district is going to call their district representative, their council member. And in that case, that's who's going to be, should be the one that intercedes for them. It's set up that way. So for us to hearken back to yesteryear doesn't help. Now, if we can get rid of the guy that does the lawsuits and the people up in Sacramento actually start to think independently. Oh wait, hold on a minute, Sacramento? Yeah. And then they overturn that, then maybe we go back to at-large.
No.
Because, but in the meantime, we are districts.
We can't.
Okay, but the point I'm saying is that, because I know that in my district, so that is one of the reasons why I'm running, we had an issue that was small and it basically got ignored, and including by the person that was elected, oh, I'm sorry, you're right, he was put into District 3. He didn't run in District 3, but he inherited it and had nothing to say. So therefore, I think that when there is something happening in your district, which maybe it's only every third year, You've gotta act like it's yours, so.
Do we get to answer any of those questions?
Certainly.
Since I am in District 3, and I guess we're probably talking about the Windsong opening, the problem is that not everybody's aware of everything that's going on in the background in the city. One of the things that we've been fighting for and we're working on, and I didn't tell anybody this because this is stuff that we do behind the scenes. I'm hearing about it. I hear about what people are saying. I let them deal with the city first. Nobody calls me. Nobody's emails me on any of the information. So I'm hearing it from the city. I get CC'd on a lot of this stuff, and I say, well, let our staff answer the questions, and then if they can't answer the questions, then they can call me. I mean, if I go through, I can show you all my emails from all the people that live in my district because I get it all the time. But one of the things, it was really funny because Windsong wants their front entrance fixed. Well, we are fixing Windsong. We had a guy that was not doing his job, and we got on them, and they've been working on it. But you don't know is that we're trying to work a deal out with the guys down the street that are doing all the development to suck in the Windsong entrance to make a really nice drive going down, all the way down through our city. That's background area that people don't know. I don't go on Facebook and make claims and say things. I just answer questions that I get. It's always been my motto. People send me something, I answer them the same day. Sometimes they call me, I answer within an hour. Because I'm on my phone all day long for my business. So saying that I didn't know and didn't care was kind of stupid.
I'll have to agree with that we are in districts. Bridget Moore is 1-800-BRIDGET-MOORE. I don't care what district it's in, they're calling Bridget. I get phone calls all the time, whether they're in my district or not. I get phone calls about the little park in Windsong. That's not my district, but I answer those emails and do the best I can to get the information out to the people. People don't seem to do anything or show up at these meetings unless it's in my backyard.
Yep.
You know, that's when we seem to hear. And they don't come directly to us about it. I didn't get any emails directly about it or asking to do anything about it. As Tim being District 3. We saw it on social media where we were bashed and said the city didn't want to take care of it. That was not the case at all. The city has been working diligently to find out what our duties are there. Very few tracts of homes does the city take care of the entrance to. That's usually the HOA and the homeowner's responsibility. Unfortunately, Windsong had some bankruptcies from the builders. They walked away. It was bad times. The HOAs never got formed. Their CCNRs did, but there's nobody to enforce them. So Windsong needs to look at themselves and think of forming some sort of HOA, neighborhood watch, whatever you want to call it, and then they need to let us know if there's something wrong, something they want us to do something about. I'd stop and pick up the trash myself. I've done things like that.
Right. Like I'll tell people when I'm meeting them at the door when I'm campaigning, the city inherited a lot of deals from the county, and this one was probably a bad deal. Too bad, we're a city now. It's not something that's the homeowners of Windsong. The county was taking care of it, now the city inherited it. They didn't want the deal, it's a bad deal, but it's still there. That's the deal that they have to
The
deal with.
city didn't care. The city does not mind taking care of that piece of property.
Okay, so
That's where you don't get it.
So then the issue was that during the city council meeting, about a 20-minute thing, I have video, like my little camera there, that my good friend here did not even say a word. Not even like, yeah, it could look nicer, or shoot, there's a lot of behind the scenes, not a word. So that's why I say better representation. Because a word could be said, it's in your district, and that would make sense.
I don't make any decisions, and I don't go on Facebook and answer people back, so that's not how I roll. People can send me emails and I'll answer them directly, and that's the way it's supposed to be done. And in public comments, against when people are talking up here, I'm not even allowed to say anything until at the end of the meeting, and I can't even really respond to that person that's saying anything. So it's just another symbol. If you don't know what you're dealing with, you have no clue.
We're talking about in a meeting, during a meeting when you can respond back. 4 of the people responded and had a comment, you didn't. So.
No, that's because I was dealing with my city manager, or my assistant city manager, and trying to figure out how we'd fix the whole thing. That's why I didn't have to respond, and I figured if they're gonna say the same thing, why would I answer back? It's silly to reiterate the same thing that everybody else already knows, so
Well, that's the
going
difference.
after grass in front of a housing
Okay.
tract is gonna be.
And that's the
Let's-
difference between the two. I'll be there.
Exactly.
Let's rein this back in. There will, unfortunately, as I travel around the cities, our local communities all have that sort of small town feel right now, and districting is a very new concept to everybody. And the thing everybody's trying to avoid was just the basis of that question is, do you have things in your district? And unfortunately, going forward, I think, right now, for the next 5 years, maybe the next 10 years, everybody will try to stay coherent as a city. But over time, unfortunately, you are responsive to the voters within your district. And as we see in larger cities, oftentimes that deteriorates into a situation where a particular person in that district is gonna fight for everything, sometimes to the exclusion of other things. So understand why that happens. So next question is, we will start this with Mr. Walker. What is your position on the use of eminent domain as a land acquisition strategy? And under what circumstances should a city conceivably use it?
I'm a property rights guy, and I think that it should always go to the owner of the land. Some of your problems that you have with building roads and things, you're gonna run into people that don't wanna sell, that you're gonna have to go in and use that eminent domain. But it's not like in the old days that they would say, okay, we're gonna take your property, and it was gone. No, you have to pay them top dollar for their property. Very small instances do we have to do that. We've had to do it eminent domain across the street over here. We actually talked the people into helping us. They charged us a whole lot of money, almost $600,000 for a little strip of land so we could get the on-ramp to the freeway. That was an eminent domain situation that the people just wanted to gouge the city. Well, it wasn't the city, it was all of us. It was the dump funds, it was the state of California was getting gouged. Everybody was getting gouged out of that money. There's certain places that it's gonna have to happen, and roads is one of them, but they do get paid. Bunny Canyon, right now, we're dealing with all the houses all the way up Bunny Canyon. There's 3 or 4 lots that we're actually buying from the people. They're happy to move. And then there's little pieces of slivers that we're paying top dollar for so we can fix the roads. So other than that, I would never take people's land. It's just not gonna happen that way. It can never be that way. You have to pay for what you get.
That's eminent domain is something that should be used sparingly, if at all. It should not be used for taking private property from one private person and giving it to another private person. Perhaps, like if you're gonna use something like to improve Bundy Canyon, and if somebody is refusing to, get along with the program, then maybe you have to use eminent domain, because that's for the greater good and for the community, not just from one private party to another. And so if that was ever to come up, it would have to be a case-by-case basis, but they'd really have to sell the reason why we'd use that.
Eminent domain cannot be used to take private property and give it to another private person. Eminent domain is used for the good of the public. If a road is gonna be widened and one person along this 1,000-foot road, 2,000-foot road doesn't want to cooperate and receive fair market value plus any inconveniences, sometimes a little extra, the city can't pay more than the appraised value. We can't. So we then would have to look to eminent domain. Some people say, well, I want $2 million for my little piece of property, and the guy next door is getting $10,000 for his. It's fair market value plus any inconvenience, and it is only for the good of the public, not to give to somebody else, not to use as a park, unless there was a whole thing donated to a park and they owned the piece that blocked you from getting in the park. Well, then the public can't get in, then we try to work with them first and offer them a fair payment. And eminent domain is the last resort. I am totally in favor of private property rights and always will be.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Mr. Morbido. Cannabis has been an interesting topic the past couple cycles. Some cities across the region are exploring revenue opportunities by allowing some uses in their cities. What is your position on cannabis cultivation, medical, recreational distribution within the city?
All right, I know that the city has been letting the county take the lead on this issue, and that the county has taken far longer than was expected. And as for my personal views, I've never experimented, used, dabbled on any level with marijuana. I'm not saying that as a judgment against those that do partake, just as a fact. Now, I voted in favor of Prop 64, as did 57% of the voters of the state. If you visit my campaign website, you'll see that I have the same stated opinion that Tim Walker has, which is put it on the ballot and let the voters decide.
Well, I think we did that, and they decided it was legal in California, so that part of it's been done. The next step is to decide if Wildomar wants dispensaries, if they want it agricultural, do they want labs here? And we did a survey to find out, and even though it passed in the city, voting-wise to be legal in California, our residents don't want it in the city. People that live here, they can still go next door. Lake Elsinore's got some nice pieces of property. They're charging a license fee, and you can go buy it wherever. I think anybody who needs it medically or wants to use it recreationally knows where to get it. So this is something we need to look at in the future. If it's not going to make enough money for the city to pay for your safety, to have officers there and taken care of, I don't really personally care either way. But the residents in the survey that was done do care. So there would be something that would be up to you, and it's something we will be looking at in the future. But for right now, we're just staying with not doing anything.
I'm 100% against it, and yeah, I used it when I was in high school, had a great time, and there's no doubt about that. I mean, it just was part of the thing that we did back in the 70s. But unfortunately, my view is a little bit different, because until they change the law in the federal government and say that, you know, declassify it or whatever, I'm never going to vote for it, because it's, we swear when we get sworn in, it's to enforce, and we're with the Constitution. And then the second one is the state of California's Constitution. And right now, the feds haven't changed the rules, so I will never vote for it, not even to be on the ballot, because it's not legal. Now, people want to smoke it all they want, and they want to do it for medical purposes, have nothing to do with me. That is not my position. I don't get in people's business. I don't care if they, you know, it's the same thing with drinking, but that's legal, so you can actually do that anywhere in the places. But as far as letting dispensaries and things like that come in, absolutely against it, because it's not right and it's not fair to the rest of us that are law-abiding citizens, and we're following the law and other people aren't. Just because California wants to be in their own world doesn't mean that I'm going to be in part of that. I'm just going to stand here and say, no, I'm absolutely against it. I didn't want it on our ballot. I don't want it until they change the rules. And once they change it in Washington, then you can bring it back to me.
Thank you. Next question will go to Marcia Swanson. People bandy about the term smart growth all the time. Oh, I'm for smart growth. I like smart growth. I am a smart growth. My reply is usually, in the immortal words of Inigo Montoya in The Princess Bride, you keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. What does smart growth mean to you?
Smart growth means to me no growth. It is people that don't want to see improvements. They want the same old thing. They don't want you to have what they have. They already have their home maybe, but they don't want any more. Smart growth isn't looking at things smartly or fairly to everyone around or to our next generation that might want to buy a home. Smart growth, I hear that word and I run.
Yeah, it's the same for me. It sounds like somebody else is trying to tell us what we're going to be doing, and they're going to dictate of how it's going to happen. I mean, the market dictates everything. The market will dictate housing. If people want to build houses, the developers will show up. Whether we say we're going to do it with smart intentions and we're going to do this and that, well, nothing matters what we think until somebody's going to come up and put up the cash to build something. It just doesn't work that way. And people, you know, they always come up with their own little terms, but I don't like that term either, smart growth.
Yeah, I haven't heard that one a whole lot, but it sounds like something that would be used to just I don't know, distract from the conversation. Maybe what they're thinking of is like a master planned community, like, I don't know, Irvine or Mission Viejo back in the day. But that's its own thing, and so to use words that might hearken to that just seems like it would cloud and confuse a conversation to go nowhere.
Thank you. We'll start the next one with Mr. Walker. Temecula County has a monopoly on the tourist trade right now with Pechanga, the wine country, and some significant events, some signature events. Lake Elsinore has also done a good job with its Dream Extreme sports capital of the world, attracting major events. What do you see as Wildomar's claim to fame or signature event or reason to visit and stick around and spend a few bucks with your merchants?
One of the things we've been trying to do with the piece of property right across the street over here, the 165 acres, is the new guys that are coming in are talking to us about equestrian being a part of their development. The new housing that's looking up into the back of the farm, the 1,200 homes up there, they're talking about equestrian events and stuff like that. So if you can get those kind of things, that's going to be our claim to fame. I'm thinking we don't have all the touristy stuff, but we do have houses and horses and everything else in our town, and buffaloes that run around and stuff like that. There's not really an easy way to market ourselves. Once we have a vision of our downtown area down by Palomar and Central, we have a vision of what we want there, an old town look, an old town stores with the people that live above their little house, the little stores and stuff. We do have that focus. That will bring people here as a touristy thing. It's hard to compare ourselves or fight against Temecula when they've already got a way head start. They started a lot sooner than we did. They also have a lot more money to do anything. The rural atmosphere, I mean, we're frontierland, basically. We are frontierland. So the things that we want to do here is like, I would like to get like a shooting range. That would be awesome in our town if we could get a shooting range. Then people would be coming here and spending their money on that kind of thing. So other than that, I don't see any way to combat those guys. We can't, our planes won't land here.
You asked about a signature event, right? So we don't really have that here. I think for a bit there was a Rotary barbecue that kind of was around for a couple of years, but that's now been gone for a couple of years. I know that at the Santa Rosa Plateau, the people up there, they're talking about a craft beer tasting event, but that still would only be the first time, and that would be in springtime. That'd be great if that took off, but until then, we don't really have that, so we're talking about a lot of ifs, and we don't even have a hotel, so we don't even have a place for people to stay.
I think our signature event is our community, our people, what we want. We don't want a wine festival here, I don't think, or a balloon festival here. We can go to Lake Elsinore and watch the Grand Prix. That's a lot of fun. We can see the skydivers from here, but we are community. We do an awesome job at the parks with movies. We have Easter egg hunt. Do a lot of community things, and that's our signature, is that we are community. We are to ourselves. We don't have to have something to draw all these people in. Right now, there's no place for them even to spend their money here. There's no place for them to stay here, absolutely. But I think that's what Wildomar wants. They want to be a community to themselves.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Mr. Morbido. You realize on the city council you'll be subject to public excoriation, people calling you names from the lectern, residents feeling free to unload their grievances at the grocery store, the gas station, in the restrooms. Their children may tease your children over decisions you made. Are you ready for that? You know, I mean, there's a lot of good things that happen, a lot of perks to the office as well, but let's be honest, even as great as you are, you will not be universally popular. So how will you deal with that?
Now, how will I deal with that? First, it's like, if you can take it, or if you dish it out, you gotta be able to take it, and I write a blog, and I actually pretty nice to the city council. I kind of was skewering a lot of the regular attendees of the meetings, so, and we've taken it back and forth. So I've already kind of dealt with that. I've kind of got a thick skin. You can't get bogged down by that. If I were to be elected, I'd have to convince my wife, don't get bogged down by that. I think it probably bothers the spouses more than it would bother the people up here.
I am not concerned at all about people who have real concerns, who want to come and talk to me. My kids are big enough to take care of themselves, so I don't have to worry about them. My grandkids are pretty much big enough to take care of themselves. My great-granddaughter's 16, so I think she can take care of herself. But I want to hear what you have to say. I don't mind if you come and talk to me at the gas station. What I do mind are people who show up to city council meetings over and over with the same type of complaints with not a solution, or don't have something to do about it. Come to us individually and say, gee, this really looks bad, can you take care of it? No, they come and they sit here and say what they want to say, and they're not dumb people. Most of them are pretty smart people, and they could really make this city a better place to live. But they don't choose to, they choose to tear it apart. And those are the kind of people I'm not happy with here, but I can live with them. We had a blogger way back when we first became a city, and you know, he said he lived in this city and he used to blog about Lake Elsinore. My daughter told him he couldn't because he didn't live there. So I let him know what would happen. He can blog here all he wants. Well, he lives in Hemet now, so what does that tell you?
I have a thick skin until you get in my face. I'm a very upfront guy. I have fun every day. I'm smiling every day. And I don't really care what people think about me personally. But I don't have that problem in Wildomar because I've lived here for so long. I know just about, you know, a lot of people know who I am. And they know how I am. And if I'm at the coffee shop, you can come up and talk to me all day long. I don't read blogs. I don't read, you know, I saw things on the Facebook, like the Windsong thing. It's only because somebody said, oh, you're talking about Windsong. Okay, whatever, so I looked at it. But most of the time I stay off of social media. I don't really care what other people think and what they say. If people really have concerns, they can call me. And I will actually call them back the same day. And they've done this, and these are people not in my district. I call them all the time. I have lots of people call me and say, hey, did you know about this? No, I didn't know. Let me find out. Call my guys, my staff people, and I let them, well, I didn't even like to call them my staff people. They're a team. We're a team at this city. It's a big difference between being a politician and a team member. And the 5 of us right now, we're a team member. We don't attack our city, we protect our city. So when you come to me and ask me questions, all for it. You want to talk to me privately somewhere, bring it on. I like that kind of stuff. But you know, the ugliness and all that, I don't even care. I mean, I just move on with my life. I've got enough things, and I've got enough grandchildren to mess with that keep me happy anyway, so I'll just keep smiling. It's all good.
Thank you. Next question we'll start with Ms. Swanson. The city is currently participating in four neighboring cities in an effort to brand our region to establish an identity separate from the Inland Empire. Do you support this effort? And if you could come up with a catchy enough slogan for the region, what would that be? And if it's good enough, of course, you can probably save the city a few $1,000 on what they're going to spend on that toward a study. So, do you support a branding effort for the region? And do you have a nifty slogan?
I don't have a nifty slogan, but I think that could come, and I do support that. People say Inland Empire, and they don't mean us. That's not who they're talking about. I think even the Board of Realtors came up with a name to encompass this area away from Inland Empire. Inland Empire, to me, is Riverside and San Bernardino. The news doesn't seem to know who we are either, so I'm totally in favor of us all joining together and pulling our funds, and not just one city trying to do it, but all of us together to brand us as something a little bit different and a little bit special. There's your slogan, different and special.
You're special.
You're different, she's different.
Yeah, definitely. I am part of that group, and we are trying to brand here, and they're coming up with all kinds of angles and everything. But one of the biggest things that I think that we could sell to the outside people is the valley. The valley, I don't look at the valley as Lake Elsinore, Wildomar, Murrieta and Temecula, and then sometimes we even encompass Menifee. We are the valley. This is Temecula Valley. This is Temecula whole area. We get in on that, but it's the quality of life. And I tell people, this is an awesome place to live. It's one of the best kept secrets. Everybody's finding out. That's why you have so many people driving into LA every day in Orange County to jobs, because they found out about us. It was really nice when I got here in '79 and there was nobody here, just the things that I was shooting and eating. It was awesome. But yeah, we need the brand. But this is the valley. This is the place to live. This is the best kept secret. And a lot of people are finding it out, and we're trying to brand it to where we're getting the high tech to move here, because those are good jobs, lots of money, people don't have to drive. So we're trying to get, and I'm all for the branding. They just gotta come up with a really good one. I'm just saying, it's the most awesome place to live in California, without waterfront.
So it was asked, do we support the effort? Well, I like the idea of the effort for the area, but like we've established, we don't have a hotel, we don't have a signature event. So what would the cost for Wildomar be to be part of that? Because it couldn't be an equal share, and even not equal per capita. So I would, depending on the amount of money, I would not be able to support it beyond like in spirit.
Okay, we'll start the next one with Mr. Walker. In your opinion, does the city have a strong team in place, understanding it's a small team right now? What could you contribute to strengthening that team or revitalizing it if you feel there's some dysfunction?
Actually, I'm in the team, so I don't see any dysfunction in our team. Our people work, it's amazing. I go and talk to them. I try to stay away from the city, because all I do is cause havoc when I get here. I'm having too much fun and getting everybody laughing. I know that's a good thing, but sometimes I have to tone it down so I don't get too crazy in there, because I just have a lot of fun with our people. They're working and doing 2 or 3 hats, everybody. As we grow, we're gonna have to have some extra people. And one way that we do that is we contract our labor out. That's always gonna be our function as a city. We can't have a lot of staff people that are completely 100% on our team as far as money's concerned, because then you get into public liabilities, you get into CalPERS, you get into all these different things. As a business person, I try to use outside couriers, I try to use outside 1099s. I do all those type of things to keep my costs down. You have to do that here too. But our core, the people that work for us, that are even from outside, that are working for us as temp, they're not even temps, they're loaned to us by other contract companies. These people are dedicated to Wildomar. I can ask him anything, as long as I go through my city manager first and all his staff, because I'm still just the guy at the top. I still have to go through the chain of command. But my people know that I'm a team member, and they can ask me anything, and I'll do anything for them, because this is a strong group. We have a super strong council that we haven't had for a long time.
What's the last half of that question?
In your opinion, does the city have a strong team in place? And what could you contribute to strengthening that team or revitalizing it if you feel there's some dysfunction?
All right, that's one. I watched the Myriad version, so I kind of prepped a little. All right, there's an easy answer and a not so easy answer to that. The easy answer is, yes, I know all of them. They're awesome. The not so easy answer, and the correct one for me, goes as follows. I know everyone on staff to one degree or another. I've had several friendly conversations with the key players over the years, but I've never worked with any of them. So I know them from seeing them at city meetings or city functions, but I can't evaluate them when they're at work since I've never worked with them. This is a question more suitable after the first year in office, not before having worked with them.
Well, I think we have an awesome team, a very small team. I think employees, including us, is maybe 15, maybe not quite that many. That's what the city has, and that's what they run on. There isn't one person that is employed by the city that doesn't wear several hats. Even city council. Bridget Moore is down there at the parks running every event, down there working as hard as she can. We show up when there's a city cleanup. We're there at the dump place, helping them put stuff in the dumpsters. And so are some of our employees on their own time. I see them at our parks events. They don't all live right here real close, but they bring their families, they come, they support us as a group. We have an awesome team, and I wouldn't change anything about it. Even our contract workers, I can call anytime and ask them most anything, and they're there to take care of me, and I'll do anything for them. A few of them have had real estate questions. I can answer some of those things for them. We're a team, we work together, and we're a good team.
Okay. Next question, we'll start with Mr. Morabito. What's the biggest obstacle you have overcome in your business or professional career, And what did you take away from that to help guide decisions that you might make for the city?
Biggest obstacle. It's not like I've had a rosy career, but nothing's jumping to mind. I've always worked like an owner-operator, so I'm not with employees or even inventory or whatnot. I work for people, creating a video for them. And so the biggest obstacle is actually getting up and doing the work. So maybe that question doesn't resonate with me.
My turn?
Yes.
I've always worked in real estate since I moved here 44 years ago, starting out as an agent, working for other brokers, kind of learning my way around. After 2 years of that, I had enough time in that I could take my brokers. That was pretty scary taking that test, but I did. And then I opened my own office, and that was a huge obstacle. I'd never owned a business, didn't have any idea how to run a business, but I learned very quickly, let me tell you. Kept that going for about 10 years. My husband opened a contracting business. We built spec houses out here. Those were all learning experiences and obstacles that we had to get over to learn how to take care of ourselves. And we did. We both finished high school, some little bits of college, but neither one of us have college degrees. And yet we've taught ourselves how to get through each problem. And I think by being a business owner, like Tim says, when you own your own business and you have to do things and it's up to you, and it's up to you whether your employees get paid or what gets done. I cleaned the toilet at work, I swept the floor, I did what it took to keep the business going and alive. Even as a paid employee, when I was manager at Coldwell Banker, I still did those things. They didn't pay me to do those things, they paid me to manage the office and find somebody to do them. But if I could save some money, make profit look a little bit better, I did.
Over the years, I've had two different businesses. One was the school for years and years, and thank God I was partners, and my wife and my mother and my dad were all partners in that, and learned a lot about business that way, the hard knocks way, because I was one of the corporate officers and I had to deal with all the staff, and I had 22 teachers that were underneath me, and I had to answer to all of them and answer to parents. And then the biggest thing was to step away from that type of a business and then start this new business without any background and coming into doing courier and transportation. Well, you just get in the car and you just go. And over the years I've grown that, and it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of marketing skills, it takes, you gotta do all that stuff to make that thing go. Now I have 13 other drivers that work for me now. Knowing business is a very big key in any type of thing that you endeavor in your life. If you have any concept of business actions and dealing with people and trying to make budgets work and stuff like that, that is a big thing. It's a big plus for this, especially politicians. If most people had that background, we wouldn't be in the mess that we are now in our whole country.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Ms. Swanson. Economic development is always a topic of conversation in our communities. With so many undeveloped properties in Wildomar, is there a plan to bring a successful tax base to the economy here that continue to sustain residential needs?
At this time, I have to say no. And that's why I think that hiring an economic development person is so important right now. As Tim said, he has a job, I had a job, we all work. Bridget drives, I don't know how many hours every day. Ben is on every committee there is, doing everything he can. But you need somebody that's an expert in that field, someone that knows how to bring businesses here, knows where to go to meet them, knows what kind of businesses we would like to see here. And we do have a long list of that. I mean, everybody has waited for Walmart for 10, 15 years. They've owned that property a long time. We still don't know if they're coming. So you can't count on one thing. You need somebody out there that can meet and greet these people, show them around the city, show them what vacant properties we have and what they could do with them, be able to answer their questions. As a real estate agent, lots of times I would have someone come to me, well, can I do this in the city or in the county, as it was then? I didn't know. I had to go learn. Can they do this on this property? Can they not? If we had someone here that was their sole job, was to bring business and economic development to Wildomar. Good stuff, stuff we all want here, not just anything, but bring some good businesses here. We're getting more. We got a couple good restaurants across the street now, and a little bit more economic development over there, but we need more. All of our corners at the freeway are vacant for the most part, and all of those are prime real estate places.
We've all done our share with meeting with developers. I've been doing a lot of that lately. Ben's been doing a lot of that lately. He's dealt with the people to build a hotel right here on this corner, right behind the city hall. He did a whole presentation with those guys. He's met with them. I met with a guy just the other day that owns the corner of Bundy Canyon right across the street from where Walmart would go, and he's talking about a hotel there with gas stations and a little shop, whatever. And he also owns a lot of other property. It really comes down to, and like Marcia said, if we had somebody that went and chased these people. We went to use the National Organization for commercial businesses out in Vegas when I first got on here. I went and met with the guys that sell all the stuff, the outdoor guys, Bass Pro Shop. I met with them. I called the guy. I talked to the acquisition guy, all this stuff. You know what he told me? You're too close. You're too close to the one up in Fontana, so we couldn't get that. We've spent a lot of time, we've not gone to that since then, because you spend a lot of time talking to people that are never going to come to California. A lot of them don't want to come to California. But with our aspect and what we can do as council is make it easier for the process, work with our guys. Hey, what can we do to push them through quicker? Let's consolidate things. Let's get their approvals quicker. Those type of things we can do, but we do need an EDA person.
Well, I'm on the outside looking in, so I don't know how any of that it would actually work in reality. I didn't take any classes at school, so I know ahead of time. As far as EDA and a position, I mean, it's interesting. I don't know how much that is a year that it would be out of the budget, but I guess it'd be interesting to hear more about that.
Okay. This will be our last question before we go to closing statements, and I understand we also have a brief presentation coming right after that. So the question will start with Mr. Walker. If you could only name one significant achievement as a legacy when you leave the council, what would that be?
So far, it's been marijuana. I got elected on that issue, and I've kept it out ever since. So that's the big legacy so far. Now, whether that'll hold up, who knows? But that was the one thing I fought for. That's the one I got elected on, and I've also worked tirelessly to get other things in our city to make it better. Because I'm here, my kids were born here, and my grandkids are all born here. So we aren't leaving, and we want it to be the best it can be, and we keeping it a small town feel. I think that's pretty much what I've done so far. Community.
Legacy. All right. I'd be perfectly happy to fade into obscurity the week after my term would be over, provided that I kept my promise of making the channels of communication between the city and the people clearer. That'd be fine with me.
Well, I think what I'm most proud of is that we're still here. We're still a city. We've been through some really rough bumps. Our city manager, Gary Norquist, has done a fantastic budget. All of us have given up getting to go to things that we might want to go and learn something about. To ICSC, we did it a couple times and it wasn't helping, it wasn't working, so we didn't go. We don't pay for those memberships. But the reopening of our parks, that has made me happier than anything. And I would love to leave that as a legacy, along with the help of Bridget. I can't take credit by myself. But getting that passed and just keeping us still open. We're still a city, we're moving on. We've got 27 acres for another park, we've got another 11 acres for another park, and we'll figure a way to build them as time goes.
Terrific, thank you. And at this time now, we'll start our closing statements. You'll have 1 minute each, and we will start with, in reverse order, with Marcia Swanson.
Well, as I said, I am running unopposed, so I don't have a huge closing statement. If you're in District 5, I would still appreciate your vote and you taking the time to go out and vote. It might not be that important for me, but there are a lot of issues on the ballot that are important to all of us. Read them, understand them, and vote for what you care about. Not what your neighbor said to vote for, or not what you saw on social media, but read them and understand them. So many people go vote, and they vote by the name, the gender, the whatever. You don't even know who these people are. Somebody told my husband they were gonna vote for somebody up here on council, and he said, well, why don't you come tonight and see what they're all about? And he said, I got other things to do. What kind of vote is that? Be an informed voter. Vote what you feel in your heart.
If elected to represent the people of Wildomar, I will be an ambassador, not a crusader. I will work on their behalf and concerns, not my own. I'm not promising to revolutionize Wildomar, nor is that my aim. We are a small city with a small budget, but I believe there is room for improvement. Things that I have not seen in the last 5 years of my attending city meetings and events. In addition to increased safety measures, I want to see the city start being far more proactive when it comes to serving the residents. That begins with clear communication from the city to the residents. That can be done with an e-newsletter that I've mentioned, and even a regularly scheduled video of the mayor and the city manager discussing things that are going on in the city. Please consider voting for me if my ideas appeal to you.
Like I said, I got elected on the first time with the marijuana thing, but people already knew that I was a conservative and staunch conservative and cheapskate at heart. That's just 100% true. But one of the things I did, the real reason that I ran in the first place is I love the city. It's just that simple. It's a small town. We try to keep it as nice and neat and clean as possible. Outside influences always want to attack a city. People want to come in and harass the city and sue the city and do all these things to the city. So, and that's what I've been doing. 8 years I've been on this board, 8 years. And it's been a lot of work, and it's been a lot of fun, and being mayor of the city has been one of the highlights of my life, twice already. So if I get reelected again, I'm pretty sure they'll probably vote me to be a mayor again, and I would be more than happy to do that. And this time of my life, I own my own company, I have a lot of staff, so it's been easier to do more things with the city and for the city. So I'll just keep fighting and do the same old thing I have done for 8 years. Nothing's changed.
All right, thank you all. I think, as you can see, well, it's always nice to have, it's not great to have people running unopposed unless you happen to be one of the people running unopposed. But it's also nice to have differences, and in some of these that I've been doing recently, it's like a big love fest, and everybody gets along, and yeah, I agree with what they say, and I agree with what they say, so it's kind of refreshing to come out and see that we do have some differences of opinion. You get a great idea of who is representing you and who is trying to represent you, and I think that's very important. So I appreciate you all coming out tonight. Let's have a nice round of applause for these folks up here. They gave a lot. But at this time, we believe we do have a, yes, we do.
Do we stay here or do we get to go down?
You can do whatever you like, honestly.
Well, we'll just stay here. We'll let him finish.
You guys give us a second, we're gonna put a slide presentation up